Well, this is all fine and dandy, but how do we use it in an actual site? In terms of the layout. And so let's build something real. And I've tried to come up with, a little example that's not completely, but I always try and come up with something that's a little fun, at least, in the examples. And so what I've thought of is I want to create a little site dedicated to 3-person bands. And so there are these bands out there that just have 3 people and absolutely rock it. And I know a little bit, not a lot. I took piano lessons when I was a kid, and don't play super well, but I understand, the notes and how that all works. I learned to play the guitar a little bit, and then I transitioned over and played the bass a little bit. And my brother got a drum kit, and I messed around with those a little bit. And I just, I enjoy music, so I understand to some degree, is what I'm saying, how difficult it is to, create music. And just as a little silly example, when I, kind of learned these different instruments, I had some time between when I graduated high school and when I was leaving on my mission. I didn't have a whole lot to do. And so my brother had gotten a 4-track recorder, where you could go in and, record yourself playing the guitar, and then you could come back and play the bass, and you could come back and play the drums, you can come back and sing. And so you could do 4 different parts, and if you got tricky with it, you could then compile those 4 things into one track, and then do more tracks with it. And so anyway, this little 4-track recorder was a blast. And so I got also this little book that had all the Beatles music transcribed. And I love the Beatles, so I decided to go through and I just started making little recordings. And they're absolutely terrible. And the only time I really break them out, because I'm not a singer, and I'm not actually, super musically talented either. So the only time I break them out now is when I need to entertain my brothers on their birthdays. And I will send them a little clip of me doing the birthday song from the Beatles. And they think it's hilarious because it's so bad. So anyway, I wasn't going to do this, but just because I love my students, and I want you to, for your entertainment pleasure, I want you to hear the 19-year-old me, just a little clip of it, on my 4-track recorder playing Birthday. Got the drum machine going. I didn't have drums at that time, so I had to use the drum machine. Wait till the singing starts. You're going to love this.
You say it's your birthday. It's my birthday too, yeah.
Oh
You say
boy.
it's your birthday.
I'm going to have to edit this part out, all right, I can tell.
I'm glad it's your birthday. Happy birthday to you.
All right. There you go. So anyway, that's just a lead into what we're going to do on this site. So when these people come out with 3-person bands and just kill it, it is always super impressive to me. So I'm going to create a little site dedicated to some of my favorite 3-person bands. So let's come in and we're going to get rid of this little, what we have in there so far. In fact, I'm going to start all the way over again just to go through it again. So again, the overall container for a section on a website. So think about it that way. This is not necessarily the whole website, but for a section on a website is going to be this div with a class equal to container. All right, so I've built the little container, and then within that container, I'm going to start to build some rows. So I can build, and just, again, to make it a little more clear, I'll space this out. So I can have a div class here called a row. I still can't believe I did that music. I wasn't going to, but I thought they'll think this is funny. So that's how much I love you. So for each, now within that row, I can start to create these columns, right? And so, so as I think about how I'm going to lay out this site, going back to, well, even this is a good example. So here in this Bootstrap grid system, it has this nice kind of, there's some element over here, there's some stuff in the middle, there's some stuff over here. And so as I think about how I want to lay out this site, I'm thinking I'll have just a little introduction, kind of on the left-hand side of the screen. So over in this area, just a little, introduction, maybe a picture, and then list out, here are my favorite bands, have the list down here, and maybe give some honorable mentions to some other bands. And so that's kind of my thought for what we'll do for this little site. And so the first thing I'm going to do is create, I want on this row, in this section, think about it that way. In this section, I want to have, that little bit of stuff over to the side. And so maybe I say, let's create a div class here, a column. Let me just lay it out, in fact, just as without anything at first. So a column, and in this column, I'm going to put some stuff, like maybe I'll put a header saying, the best trios. Maybe I just put that, the best trios. And then maybe I have here an image, and then maybe a little paragraph of explanation, just saying, this page is dedicated to some of the best 3-person bands in the world. I could put more of an explanation. I'm always impressed. I need more, actually. What should I write? I want this paragraph to be a little bigger. Based on my own professional music experience, it is difficult to throw down that kind of sound with only 3 individuals playing. I mean, typical band, you'd have a rhythm guitar and a lead guitar, and drums and bass. That's the typical setup, right? A lot of bands get to 5 if the lead singer just kind of sings and doesn't really play too much, maybe a tambourine or something, right? And then, so do you think like Maroon 5 or, some groups like that? And then, you get some that then they throw in keyboards or, other percussion or whatever, and they get somebody else in the band. And then there's bands like the band Chicago. Anybody know the band Chicago? They just say, anybody else want to come in? I went and saw them one time, and it was like the worst. Well, the concert was great, but it was on a date. It was down at USANA, and I wasn't really big on going on this date. It was kind of getting to that awkward phase of the dating where it was kind of toward the end, but this girl invited me, and anyway, it was a rough, because it was so long to get there, chatting, and then at the concert, and then on the drive home, we couldn't get out of the parking lot. It just felt like the longest day ever. And anyway, you probably had those. Many people probably experienced those with me now that I'm thinking about that. Anyway, and I'm thinking the whole time, okay, this needs to be over. And so I just remember for the whole way home, I was scanning through stations trying to find a song of Peter Cetera, because Peter Cetera wasn't in Chicago anymore, but this guy who they got to replace him sounded more like Peter Cetera than Peter Cetera. And so anyway, I was trying to find that on the way home. I just remember that little experience. So anyway, that's beside the point. Chicago has however many people you want to be in the band, they have that many. Just a huge ensemble. Well, so we get, this little paragraph about the information. We get the trios. We're going to go track down an image here. And maybe I'll just do that last here in this particular video. So let's go out and I'll just search for an image of, a great 3-person band. And one of my favorites is a band called Wolfmother. I don't know if anybody knows this band, but they're just going to have some great images. I mean, check out that dude's hair. So which one of these do I want? I need one where they're rocking. Okay, this is a good one. Let's go. By the way, small note here, you can't just go steal images off the internet if you're doing something professional. I got to put that disclaimer in here. But for my little example, totally okay. You can hot link to them if you want to make people mad. All right, so I get this little JPEG image. I don't want it in my tax folder. I put it in my downloads. And then, as it turns out, I've already done this example. So there it is. And I'm going to take that file, and I'm going to move this in the next video because we're almost out of time. Spencer, out.